and share my screen. Okay. Oh, actually, I need to back out of that, do that again. Here we go. Okay. Today, we're going to be talking about physical maps. And I want to point out what we're going to start moving into. It's going to be a little more interesting. You're going to deal more with the information on the map rather than just learning, lines of latitude or longitude or what's on a map key. Starting today and moving forward, we're going to start analyzing some information on a map rather than just learning these things. We'll start actually talking about, places and people and how their environment affects them rather than just these, sort of technical details. And I wanted to point that out because that's more what you'll see on your tests. You're going to be presented with some information. It might be text or it might be a map, and then you're going to have to, apply some critical thinking, apply some, analysis to come to the right answer on your test. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So by the time we complete this lesson, you're going to be able to define the terms physical map, climate, and elevation. And like I just mentioned, we're going to start analyzing these components on a map. And a little bit of audio.
A physical map shows the geographic land and water features of an area, such as mountains, plains, rivers, gulfs, and oceans. Physical maps also can show climate and elevation of an area. Physical maps usually will have shading or different colors for elevation and climate, and symbols for features that can be identified using the map key. Scientists study physical maps for settlement and migration patterns.
Yeah, so just like it says, right? A physical map shows physical features, mountains, plains, rivers, gulfs, and oceans, and sometimes climate information, stuff like that. So it can be presented in several different ways. Like,
what? Do you not want me to connect?
So it can be like a relief map. You might see those, you've probably encountered those, or like on a globe where it actually has like little raised portions, so you can you could feel like the mountain ranges and stuff on a map. So that's a certain type of physical map. But just like the definition says, it shows physical features. On larger scale, it could be like buildings, man-made objects, and then smaller scale like our globes or countries or states, it'll be lakes, rivers, oceans, mountains, and things like that. Okay, and like we have here. So we have this map of California, physical map, and our text box there says, to identify a physical map, you're looking for landforms and bodies of water such as rivers and oceans. All of that, right, is displayed here. We see rivers running through California. We're right there in the ocean. Same thing where most maps are oriented north. Unless you're working with lunatics, you're always going to have blue representing water. So that's something you can always point out. And then here we have a little bit different type of map key for our symbols. So here the shading is representing elevation. Where yesterday, we saw some stuff like stars or circles to represent major cities or capitals and things like that. Here it's kind of gradated. So we're looking at elevation. So the color key corresponds to various elevation. So I think we'll deal with that when we get to the quiz. And try not to repeat yesterday. So I'm going to click right on to the quiz. Okay. And that's going to move us over to Student Book, Lesson 3, Physical Maps, Quiz. Okay. I'll give everybody just a second to catch up. All right. And I see a few people kind of coming in a little bit late. So if you're just logging in, if you're just clicking in here, we're on Student Book Lesson 3, physical maps. Okay, so I'll start the quiz. I think we've got 5 or 6 questions here. And started us for some reason towards the middle. So make sure you scroll up to the top there. And we should be back on our map of California. Okay. Now let's take a look. And our little text box here, you might assume that physical maps do not show national or state boundaries, but they usually do. However, keep in mind that physical features can cross over many borders. So, state boundaries, borders of countries, that's a political map. We're going to deal with those tomorrow. But, obviously the Sierra Nevada mountains don't just suddenly stop when you get to Nevada. So a lot of times they'll just have the features that they want you to look at, and they'll gray out, or they don't want you to draw attention to anything outside of the information they want you to look at. So keep that in mind. And our first question. So based on our information here, which statement about the land in California is correct? So is it A, the land is mostly low-lying with some hills, B, the land on the coast is very low, C, the land is mostly mountainous on the coast, or D, the land is a mixture of lowland, hills, and mountains? What could arrive here? D as in dog?
Yep. Yeah.
Right, we can tell here. It's a whole rainbow, right? We get everything. Low sea level all the way up to red. Super, high elevations in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Remember I mentioned that that's where the Donner Party got stuck. I don't know if they were on the California side or the Nevada side, but real high altitudes. Even if you're in like LA, you could see the mountains way back there. And, even like sometimes in the spring, there will be snow-capped mountains, when it's like 70 degrees in LA. And one of the lowest points, I'm not sure if it's the lowest point, but it's one of the lowest points in the country, is Death Valley. And you could see right there, there's a little spot of blue, and it's actually below sea level at Death Valley. It's also a, desert, and lots of people go there and wind up not getting out because they panic, and they wind up getting or dying from exposure there. All right, so on to number 2 and a new map. So a little text here. Michigan has more than 11,000 lakes and ponds. Bordering the state are the Great Lakes of Huron, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. Several of Michigan's more than 90 state parks are located near bodies of water where visitors can swim, fish, and enjoy the state's natural beauty. And again, like I was mentioning earlier, sometimes you might have a combination of text and a map to look at. Give you a little background information with a paragraph or 2, like we have here on Michigan and the bodies of water there, and we'll go into a question. So here, our question is: the Kalamazoo River joins which Great Lake?
Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan. I'm gonna try to zoom in a little bit because those rivers and stuff are just really hard to see here. So Kalamazoo is what we're looking for. Kalamazoo right here. So we click that little hotspot. It'll turn like a little bluish gray for us. And we hit submit. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Michigan.
Lake Michigan. Yeah. Okay. Geez. And I hit submit, so I'm going to get that one wrong. So yeah, it should be Lake Michigan. Sorry about that. I was thinking about the river and not the lake. So yeah, it is Lake Michigan. That's the correct answer. That's your hotspot there. I can't click it now because I was moving too fast. So okay, moving on. I think we got another Michigan question here. So on which river is Otsego Lake State Park? So click the name.
I don't even see the Otsego. Where is it?
It's pretty close to the center.
I see it now.
You see it right here? Yeah. And another thing to keep in mind, there's these sort of labeling rules with maps that you try to put everything horizontal as much as you can. So you see like, Canada, Upper Peninsula, and the state parks and stuff are all horizontal. Bodies of water will follow along the body of water, and they're usually in italics. But make sure you're looking at the symbol and not just the name, right? So we're on Ausable River for
the Osceola Lake State Park.
There you go. Yeah, so right, because it's right next to the symbol here. Don't confuse yourself by just looking at the name and looking for like a river over here. So Ausable River is what we're looking for. And we'll hit submit. And that time it turns green the way it should. Okay. And then map of Alabama. This one's dealing with rainfall, right? Not a great map because it just says inches. So we're gonna have to look at the text to find that out what it's saying. But talking about rainfall, average rainfall here.
I think it'll be southeast.
Okay, so yeah, so in general, where's the wettest area of Alabama? And we have north, southeast, coastal area, or the west. Actually, it's the coastal area.
Mm.
So you're on the right track. So southeast would be over on this side, right? And southwest is over here. But if you look, it's mostly right. This is the only coastline of Alabama. Is this tiny section here? So C, coastal area. Okay. And
I am in school. Shut up.
so here, what is the least amount of precipitation that occurs along the border of Alabama and Florida? So is it 52 inches, 52 to 55, 56 to 60, or more than 60 inches? So along the border with Florida, what are we looking at here? What is the least amount? It's going to be
56 to 60.
52 to 55. Sometimes these maps, this was not too bad. The shading and the contrast between the two, it might be a little tough to discern between like less than 52 or 52 to 55. Just make sure that you're looking at all. You can define all the areas, right? So we know this is like the super dark green. That's like a regular green, light green, and then a real light pale green. Sometimes you run into maps, you're like, man, what am I looking at here? This is barely discernible. So answer there, B, 52 to 55. Okay. And here, last one for the quiz. So peanut farming contributes more than 200 million each year to Alabama's economy. Peanuts thrive in warm climates and well-drained chalky soil. So where would be the best locations for a peanut farm, considering that we want a drier area? So would it be on the coast? Is it going to be northern Alabama, eastern Alabama, or central Alabama? So northern. Did you say northern? Okay. It's going to be eastern. So if you look like this side of the state, you have the most area of drier or less rainfall, right? So 52 to 55, less than 52. Northern, you start running into a little more heavy rain up here. And what was our other one? Central, same thing, right? You get this area and you get a lot of heavy rainfall. But from about right here up, you get more spots of the lighter rainfall. So that's going to be C, eastern Alabama, right? So that should be our 6. Yep, that's all the quiz. So I'm going to submit answers here.
Can I get number one, please?
Number one is D. D is in dog.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And I'll have one wrong because of my Michigan faux pas there. But it looks like everything else should check out. Yep. Okay. So moving on, we're going over to the workbook now. So you can click next activity. We're going to have a handful here. And while you guys are moving over, I'll just reiterate here, physical maps, that we use different colors, shading, and symbols to illustrate those water features, land features. And of course, the map key, you're going to have a lot of variety of map keys with the physical map because, like that, it might be rainfall, it might be temperature, it might be elevation. I think we're actually going to deal with some temperature here in the workbook. And then, map title includes the words such as physical, natural features, climate, elevation, temperature, precipitation, land or water use. That's typically what type of data is going to be represented on a physical map. Keep that in mind. Like if you come across that on your test, when you see physical map, you'll know the difference between that and say, a political map. Political map's going to have those borders for states and countries and things like that, continents. Okay. So I'm going to start the quiz or start the workbook. And I did it again. It starts me all the way towards the bottom. So make sure you scroll up all the way back up to the top here to the Texas physical map. And a few little text boxes here. So A, it's talking about people use rivers and other water sources for drinking water and transportation. So of course, getting through, we're going to get our water, particularly from rivers, especially in Texas. This is a contentious point with Mexico because we have dammed up a lot of the water flow, the watershed that goes through Texas, through New Mexico, and Mexico doesn't get as much water from the rivers because we have, we use it. And I mentioned too, transportation wise, it's the most effective way to move, large cargo. You're spending less energy to float something and propel it across the water than you would with a train or airplane or, like a gas vehicle. So that's why we see so much cargo moved on ships. And of course, if you notice, there's a whole issue right now at our ports because there's all kinds of ships backed up coming into the country that can't get unloaded. And also, fishing and shipping are often important economic activities in coastal areas. So, it's the same thing. In California, we have our biggest ports on that side around, especially Southern California. So all that cargo that comes in from China or in Asia goes in there. Same thing, the Gulf, we have large ports around New Orleans and that area. Florida has some, and then up and down the East Coast. That's why those places got settled first, because they had nice natural harbors. New York was a great place to set up a colony because you had these nice deep water harbors where you could float ships in. So that's why those areas grew faster than other places, because it was so easy to get ships in and out of. All right, and then another little text box here. So physical features affect where people settle as well as how they live. Physical features can affect the work that people do, the clothing they wear, and the recreational activities in which they participate. So building on those ideas, right? Your climate, your environment, that is going to affect your culture. It's going to affect what you eat, what you wear. It really helps you become who you are or who your community becomes. So those are some of those ideas that we want to start sort of broadening and thinking about as we move through the geography unit in our lessons here. Okay, so our first question: how would early settlers most likely have traveled from Austin into New Mexico? So what would they have used? I'm sorry, what was that?
See?
See the Gulf? That's not going to get you over to New Mexico though, right? Because the Gulf is down here
Nice.
and we're trying to move over
Oh,
into New Mexico. Yeah, yeah,
it's
Mexico.
the Rio, whatever, the Rio. Is that the answer?
The Rio Grande?
Yeah,
everything?
the
Okay.
Rio.
That I don't even know if that's a, yeah, it is. It's actually just going to be the Edwards Plateau, right? Because if you're in Austin, you don't have great river access until you get to like the Pecos River or over to the Rio Grande. So sort of as the way the crow flies, your best opportunity to travel into New Mexico is just going to be across that plateau. And a plateau, of course, is going to be, all flat ground. So you're going to climb a little elevation, and that's all represented here, right? We see a lighter shade of green going into a darker shade and going into the yellow, which we have the elevation key here. And then once you get up onto the plateau, it's pretty much the same elevation. You don't have to worry about too much effort in climbing a mountain. So this one, it's B, the Edwards Plateau. That's a drop of pen. Okay. Now, next question. Back to Texas. So the Red River flows along the border of which state?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, right? Right up here. And we see the whole border, this southeastern border of Oklahoma and Texas is created by the Red River. And of course, particularly on our side of the states, in the Midwest and the East, a lot of our state borders are created by rivers, right? Like a lot of our border with West Virginia is created by the Ohio. And that was just an easy way to split up, territory, was just where the river is. All right, so A, Oklahoma for number 2. And here we go, new maps. So we have average temperatures for January for the US and average temperatures for July. And we have our little scale here. It goes from over 60 down to 0 to 15 on our scale for January average temperatures, and then over 90 down to 45 to 60 in our July temperatures. We see that they pretty much they do overlap the scale a little bit, right? Because we have blue to yellow on our January, and then we use green to red, but they actually represent the same temperatures. So like over 60 is yellow on the temperature scale for January. It's also 60 to 75 in our July map. Okay, so based on this map, which of the following are possible temperatures for Virginia? So 20 degrees in January, 75 in July, 30 in January, 80 in July, 50 in January, 70 in July, or 60 in January and 80 in July. So that requires you to sort of look at both maps, take in that information.
The
Virginia,
map
this is
doesn't show the map didn't show the name of state.
yes, I was getting ready to say the problem here, you're going to have to know your states. So let me go into my drawing tool just to make sure. And Virginia, right here, right here, right, sets below West Virginia. And I have to clear that just to move down, take another look at the.
Is it A?
It's actually D. So I'll show you here. Wait a minute. B, I'm sorry, B. So 30 degrees in January.
I'm trying to keep things in perspective.
And 80 degrees in July. So right? We see it's all green in the winter in January. So it very rarely does it get, dip below that. It certainly does get super cold sometimes. One of the worst snowstorms I've ever seen was when I was living there, and we had, I don't know how many inches of snow. It was like 18 inches of snow or something crazy. And that was on the south western part of the state, like down here, close to Blacksburg. So you see it doesn't get under 30 often. And then in the summer, we peak out in the 75 to 90 range. So B, right? So it's going to be 30 and 80 degrees in July. Okay, so number 4. So which of the states is going to have the coldest in January? So Washington, Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Maine. So we just need to look at our January map, right? And so I will get our drawing tool. So Maine is up here. Washington is over here. And what were the other 2 states?
Pennsylvania and
Ohio.
Pennsylvania and Ohio. Okay. So out of those 4, which one's going to have the coldest temperatures?
Maine.
Maine. Yes. I'm getting better with my drawing tools. I'm proud of myself. Yeah. Maine. And I think I mentioned that the other day, right? Some of the coldest temperatures in the US are recorded there because they get these crazy high winds through there. I forget that there's a mountain. It's not Rainier. I can't remember, but that's where they tend to record like these super cold temperatures in the winter. All right, so D, Maine for number 4. Okay, back to our temperature map. So which of the following statements best summarizes the content of the maps? So the United States is cold, the United States is warm, the US has a wide range of temperatures, or the United States has uniform temperatures?
C.
Say, was that B
C.
or C?
C.
Yeah.
C.
C. C is in cat. And this is one of those more analytical ones, right? We have to take a look here and see, okay, take a look back at the map. And, with the wide ranges here, we get these super cold areas, 0 to 15, all the way up to 90, over 90, right? Especially in the Southwest here. So we can make an inference based on that. We can analyze that and say C, the United States has a wide range of temperatures. And let's see here. I think we got one more for our US map before we move on. Okay, and then which of the following factors, and here's another one that requires a little bit of analysis. So which of the following factors affects the climate of the southeastern part of the United States? Is it the proximity to the equator? Is it its longitude? Is it the vegetation? Or its proximity to islands? What's making the southeastern region of the US warmer? A, right? Southern extent. It's funny because it was the first day or the second day we talked about the equator, and around Ecuador and those South American countries that follow along those lines, there's a bit of moderation through things like ocean current and altitude and everything, but nevertheless, those southern extremities are going to be warmer because they get more sun exposure over the course of the year. The way the angle of our sun, it's always going to be warmer there. And process of elimination, right? Longitude, well, longitude is not going to matter because, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, all these states are on the same longitude. as Florida and Georgia, where it's warmer. That doesn't really help. Vegetation, how does vegetation, change your climate? It's actually the other way around, right? Climate affects the vegetation, not the vegetation affects the climate. And then proximity to the islands, well, that doesn't really matter, right? I mean, yeah, Cuba is off the coast of Florida, and you have a lot of the your Caribbean nations, but that doesn't tell you anything about climate. Not to mention that there's smaller islands off the coast of New York and DC and out here, that doesn't really affect the climate either. So it's the proximity to the equator that's basically affecting the climate there and makes those southern states warmer. All right. Oh, another one. Okay, thought we were finished with the US. So which of the following are possible temperatures for New Mexico? So another one of those temperature ranges. And I want you to pay close attention to this one. It's a little different than the last one. So it says 10 degrees in January, 90 degrees in July, 30 degrees in January, 90 degrees in July, 30 degrees in January, over 90 degrees in July, 50 degrees in January, or over 90 degrees in July.
Okay, we in July.
So, and also to help everyone out, New Mexico is right here.
Where the red?
Yep.
I know red on it.
So what are we looking at here? $10 to 90, 30 to 90, 30
B.
over 90. B is in boy.
See?
Oh, no, it's, yeah, B. But what I want to make sure I point out there, right? Be careful when you go through answers because they're changing it up, right? These last two, it's not
Because it
just
says over 90 degrees. in July.
right. So always make sure that you read through them carefully because that could trip you up. And I went through this last night and I looked, I was like, those are the same, right? B and C. And then I looked again, I was like, no, crap. Okay, yeah, it's over 90 degrees. So that's why you have that on there. I thought they had messed up, which, they do sometimes and put the same thing. But yeah, so it's 30 degrees in January, 90 degrees in July. You'll see, right? New Mexico, we hit 75 to 90, but typically doesn't get over 90. And it does get cold there, in the winter and at night. New Mexico, Arizona, there's some places that get really, really cold. And let's see. Oh, it's another one. Okay, yep. So which of the following states has the highest average temperature in July? And our choices are Colorado, New Mexico, Florida, California. And so Colorado, New Mexico, California, and was it Florida? Is that the other
Yeah.
one?
Is it California?
California, right? If you look down there along the Arizona-California border, we get well over 90 degrees in that part of the state. So yeah, it is, let me clear off my drawings and shut that off. It's going to be D, California, for number 8. And of course, yeah, a lot of that has to do with that southern extent. A lot of California's temperature is also moderated by the Pacific Ocean. So I think I mentioned I worked in LA for like 2 summers, and it's the only hot weather that I've ever enjoyed because it's just so dry. The humidity's not too bad out there. It was like well into the summer before it really ever got above 80 some degrees. And it's beautiful weather. Like, you can understand why everybody loves it out there. So yeah, D, California. And okay, so in which of the following states would there be the highest probability of snow during January? So it's Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, or Louisiana. And I'll just point the states out here. So it was Louisiana and what was it? Mississippi, Tennessee, and I've already forgot the other one. What was the other one?
South Carolina.
South Carolina? Okay, yeah. So South Carolina. So out of that 3,
Is it Louisiana?
Tennessee.
Tennessee, right? If you look up here, Tennessee, we get that dark green area, 30 to 45. So on Fahrenheit, right? Well, I mean, as we know, after this past weekend, it can snow well above 32 degrees, 32 being the freezing point. But that area of Tennessee, right, is going to be most likely to have the right temperatures to see snowfall. And it's the entire state, right? Part of that is because it's a higher altitude, a lot of mountains there, the Smokies. And part of it is because it just doesn't get down into that southern extent where you start getting warmer temperatures as you move to the lower latitudes in the US. So C, Tennessee. What if they did that on purpose? Okay. And which state experienced the warmest average temperatures in January? So flipping it around here, looking at January.
Is it Florida?
Florida, right? Florida, New Mexico, California, or Arizona. And we see right there, Florida, stay, you get temperatures well over the 60s in January. So that's going to be A. Of course, New Mexico, like I said, it can get cold there. Higher altitudes, higher elevations, you get snow. California, hot in the summer, but a little more moderate in the winter. Especially in the desert areas, again, you get those elevations, everything, so it's not quite as hot. And Arizona too, doesn't really peak out that high in the winter. So, we kind of always think about the desert and that area of Arizona being really, really hot in the summer, or just hot year round. But in truth, you get into those higher elevations, you get, closer to the Colorado or the Utah border, it gets pretty darn cold there. Okay, so Florida, A for number 10. All right, yeah, new map now. So precipitation around the world. And we'll see here, I'm going to zoom out. That's how I get that all in. So now it kind of makes it hard to see. So in our T, we have our average yearly precipitation, right? We go up to over 80 inches of rain, down to that sort of brown color where it's 0 to 10 inches of rain. And then it's basically, we see the entire world here, Australia, all the continents, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, South America, North America, and Antarctica. Can't forget about Antarctica down here. So take that in. Got a little bit of text here. So one of the wettest areas of the world is in South Asia. Here, the people of the region experience a monsoon or rainy season that lasts from June through October. During this season, the region receives much of its rain for the year. The farmers depend on these rains to water their crops, knowing that there will be little rain the rest of the year. Rainforests, such as those located in South America, are also very wet. However, the rainfall is steadier and spread throughout the year. There are 2 types of rainforests. There's tropical and temperate. A tropical rainforest found closer to the equator where it is warm. Tropical rainforests are known for their dense vegetation that prevents whatever sunlight there might be from reaching the ground. So it's those really thick canopies that at the top of these large trees, so you don't have a lot of things growing underneath it. And then temperate rainforests are found near the cooler coastal areas farther north or south of the equator. So for the United States, for example, the state of Washington is home to an unspoiled temperate rainforest, which is located in the northern reaches of the Olympic National Park. So way, way up here, we have a temperate rainforest where, you know, you get rain year round. You know, we have 4 seasons, right, in those areas. South America, of course, down here, what they're talking about, right, you see a lot of rainfall, and that goes through your rainforest. Same with Africa. On that same latitude, you get a bit of a wetter area, and you get some more vegetation. And then it was saying over here, right, Southeast Asia, and you could see the amount of rainfall that they get. And so much of that occurs at one time of the year. So have any of you guys seen Forrest Gump? So Forrest gets drafted in the Army, and he goes off to serve during the Vietnam War, and he gets over there, and he's like, and then it started raining, and it didn't stop for 4 months. Because, you know, that was the middle of the monsoon season. So along with that, you know, you only get certain vegetation that, or I should say vegetation, agricultural goods that will grow in that type of environment. So, you know, like rice, there's a lot of rice production in Southeast Asia because it's a better environment for it. You know, certain products are not going to grow well there. You know, like you think, certain types of lettuce needs a cooler temperature, a little bit drier. You know, a lot of the crops, you think about the stuff that we grow in the US, stuff like that won't grow well in that type of environment. We can produce rice along, you know, like parts of Louisiana, you know, the deep South. There's still some like rice plantations and things. So, you know, but it's limited. Whereas across South Asia, that's a crop that you can plant successfully in most places. Okay, so to our question. So why is farming in South Asia problematic? There's never enough rain. It's constantly raining in the region. The region has 3 rainy seasons per year, or it receives most of its yearly rain from June to October. A, B, C, or D?
D.
D? D as in dog?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So like we were saying, it receives most of its rain in that 4-month period from June to October. So doesn't make farming impossible, but it makes it difficult, and it's going to dictate what type of agriculture you're going to be able to perform in that. And it started raining. All right. I think we got the same text here. Yeah. So next question, number 12. According to the map, which continent uniformly experiences a yearly average rainfall 10 to 20 inches? So looking at an entire continent on the map, whether it's North America, South America, Antarctica, or Asia, which one of these falls into that 10 to 20 yearly precipitation?
Antarctica.
Antarctica.
There you go, Antarctica. I think I mentioned that too. You know, we think of it, there's lots of snow there on the ground, but as far as yearly average precipitation, not a lot going on. It doesn't snow that much there. It's just that, you know, it's perpetually frozen, at least a lot of it, some of it not so much anymore. But that's basically, yeah, it gets very little actual precipitation. Okay, a little text passage again, and we're going to start talking about Pakistan. So Pakistan is located in South Asia and extends from the Himalayas to the Arabian Sea. There's 4 geographic regions of Pakistan, include the plateaus in western Pakistan, the mountains in the north, plains in the valley of the Indus River, and hills in the northwest. Pakistan's terrain is as diverse as its people because of the country's vast rugged land, agriculture is not an economic mainstay of many of the country's regions. However, the use of irrigation has helped in the growing of crops such as wheat, rice, and cotton. About 40% of the population lives in urban areas. Karachi is a port city located along the coast in the south. The capital city, Islamabad, and the city of Lahore are located in the east central part of the country. These three cities are Pakistan's most populated urban areas. So look down here. We have Islamabad up here, Lahore here, Karachi is our port city down there. And then on the map, we're going to select the hotspot that indicates Pakistan's major port city. So we're basically can rule out anything up here, right? You know, we're looking at a port city. Where is that port city?
Islamabad.
Nope, Karachi, right? Port city on the Arabian Sea. And here again, you know, that this is that kind of combination of information. So remember, you know, if you run into some text, you can review that and see if that, you know, information is there. So, you know, right here in that second paragraph towards the bottom, it says Karachi is a port city located along the coast in the south. And then you can locate it here down at the bottom. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and submit that one. Get our green light. Excuse me. All right. So same text. Looking at our map. So on the map, we're going to select the hotspot that indicates the most mountainous area of Pakistan. So again, you know, what I was talking about with physical maps, they'll represent mountain areas. And, you know, they'll be shaded a little different, or, you know, they'll have, you know, like I was saying, like a relief sort of extent to it to help you pick out those regions. So if we're looking here, we certainly have mountains, you know, in several places, but what would you consider here to be the most mountainous area of Pakistan?
Hindu Kush.
Hindu Kush, yeah, perfect. Yeah, Hindu Kush region, super mountainous, really rough terrain. Of course, that was an issue in the Afghan war because, you know, the Hindu Kush, of course, goes way over here into Afghanistan. You know, super high terrain, rocky, mountainous, really posed a problem for the U.S. military. And of course, Al-Qaeda early on, and then the Taliban could hide in the mountains, disappear for long periods of time, and just made it really difficult place to fight a war, as many people have found out. So Hindu Kush. Okay. All right, I think we only have two more here. So this one, okay, yeah, locate all the waterways of Pakistan. We're choosing hotspots here. I'm going to zoom into the map a little bit. Unfortunately, reading those names still a little bit difficult. So we're looking for the major waterways in and around Pakistan. Yeah, they're right here. So I'll just go ahead and click on them because it is tough to see. The Arabian Sea, for one, right down here, and it's the Dasht River right here. You could barely make out the line going around the central Makran range. So Dasht River. And then the more famous Indus River, it runs pretty much the length. So up here, it's the Indus River. So you click that. And get our green boxes. And our last one. So now we want to locate the country with the longest border with Pakistan. So it shares a border with China, Afghanistan, and India. Oh, and Iran. So which one do you believe is the longest border here?
India.
India.
India, yeah. Obviously, China, it's a short border. That Afghanistan border is really long. The Iran one, not so much. Both the borders here with Afghanistan and India pose a problem. Of course, Pakistan is our relationship with the U.S. it's kind of complicated, but they are an ally. And that was something that we dealt with during the Afghan war. There was a lot of the people we were fighting, like Taliban, that would go across that porous border and hide in Pakistan. Of course, we can go chase them in there because they're an ally, and we can, start issues there. Except, you probably remember Osama bin Laden was hiding out in Pakistan, and we took a big risk going in, diplomatic risk to go in and get him. And anytime that things were going well during the war and things were quiet, that was because a lot of those guys were going and they were hiding in Pakistan. And Pakistan's border with India is also really contentious because there's a lot of border disputes between Pakistan and India. There's this area up here called Kashmir that you might hear about in the news from time to time. And always okay. So there's always some issues there with people or India and Pakistan fighting each other or dealing with border disputes. All of which is kind of scary because both Pakistan and India are nuclear powers. They have both enriched uranium. They have tested or developed and tested nuclear weapons. So anything we hear about Pakistan and India as far as disputes makes everybody a little bit nervous. So go ahead and submit there, India. And that is the end of physical map workbook. That was a short one today. All right, go ahead and
Please, the number 6, can I get the answer again?
sure. 1 second here. I'm going to stop recording.